In the rolling hills of Kentucky, where thoroughbred horses are bred for glory, 3 colts named Spirit, Ember, and Storm were labeled worthless by a wealthy breeder. Spirit, with a weak tendon, limped in the shadows of pristine stables. Ember, a skittish chestnut, trembled at every sound. Storm, a defiant black colt, refused to obey. Declared failures, they were sent to a muddy auction yard, destined for slaughter. But fate intervened when Emma Carter, a young veterinary student with calloused hands and a threadbare coat, emptied her savings to rescue them. With a rusty trailer and trembling hope, she brought them to her crumbling farm, Cedar Hollow, where their journey from discarded to legendary began. The first weeks at Cedar Hollow were a blur of bandages, sleepless nights, and trial by error. Spirit's tendon required cold compresses 3 times a day, and Emma rigged a makeshift ice pack using Ziploc bags and duct tape. Ember refused to eat until Emma sat cross-legged in her stall, humming lullabies her mother had sung her as a child. Storm, true to his name, charged at anyone who entered his space, until Emma discovered he'd calm if she read aloud from her veterinary textbooks. "See? You're just a nerd at heart," she teased, turning a page as Storm nudged her shoulder. Money was tight. Emma sold her laptop to buy feed, rationed her own meals to afford painkillers for Spirit, and patched holes in the barn roof with tarps from the hardware store. Her neighbors shook their heads. Old Hank McCormick, who'd bred horses for 40 years, leaned on her fence one morning and said, "You're pouring your life into 3 lost causes, girl." Emma wiped sweat from her brow, her hands raw from mucking stalls, and replied, "Funny, that's what they said about me in high school." Progress was agonizingly slow. Spirit collapsed twice while relearning to walk. Ember bolted through a fence during a thunderstorm, and Emma spent hours coaxing her out of the woods with apple slices. Storm bit Emma's wrist so hard it bruised, but the next day he let her brush his mane without protest. At night, Emma documented every tiny victory in a leather-bound journal. Day 27, Spirit stood unaided for 10 minutes. Ember ate oats from my hand. Storm didn't bite me today, progress. She tacked photos of the colts above her desk, their ribs less visible, their coats starting to shine. One evening, as she bandaged Spirit's leg by lantern light, she whispered, "You're going to prove them all wrong. I promise." By autumn, Cedar Hollow began to transform. Emma turned the overgrown pasture into a training ground, hammering ground poles from scrap wood and repurposing old tires as obstacles. Spirit, his tendon finally healing, took his first unassisted trot across the field, a wobbly, triumphant dance that left Emma cheering into the crisp air. Ember, still skittish, discovered a love for open spaces. Emma taught her to associate loud noises with rewards, dangling a carrot stick every time a tractor rumbled past. Storm, ever the rebel, refused to follow commands until Emma turned training into a game. "You want a race?" "Fine," she challenged, sprinting alongside him until he outpaced her effortlessly. The local second-chanced horse show became Emma's goal, a small-town event for rescued and rehabbed horses. She entered all 3 colts, stitching makeshift saddle pads from thrift store quilts. But disaster struck the night before the show. A storm flooded the roads and Emma's truck broke down 2 miles from the fairgrounds. She walked the colts through the rain, arriving soaked and shivering. Spectators chuckled as Spirit slipped in the mud during his trot, and Ember froze mid-jump, her ears flat against her skull. Storm, agitated by the crowd, nearly threw Emma into a fence. "Give it up, kid," someone yelled. But as Emma led Ember out of the arena, a girl in the front row, no older than 8, clutching a stuffed horse, shouted, "They're beautiful." Emma blinked back tears. "Yeah," she whispered. "They really are." That night, exhausted and defeated, Emma almost quit. Then she found a note tucked into her trailer door. "Your horses inspired my daughter. Please don't stop." Inside was a $50 bill. She bought a bag of apples, a new halter for Storm, and vowed to keep going. News of the colts spread faster than Emma expected. A video of Storm jumping a creek went viral, garnering thousands of comments like, "This horse is a beast, and who's his trainer?" One morning, a sleek black car pulled into Cedar Hollow. Harlan Kensington stepped out, his tailored suit clashing with the muddy paddocks. "I'll admit I underestimated them," he said, eyeing Storm's muscular frame. "Name your price." Emma crossed her arms. "They're not for sale." Kensington smirked. "Everyone has a price. What's yours? A new barn? College tuition?" Storm, sensing tension, reared and slammed his hooves into the ground, splattering mud across Kensington's polished shoes. "You're making a mistake," Kensington snapped, storming off. Emma channeled her anger into training. She converted a rusted stock tank into a water treadmill for Spirit, strengthening his gait. She desensitized Ember to crowds by hosting open barn days, inviting locals to pet the once terrified filly. Storm's explosive speed became his trademark. He could outpace Emma's four-wheeler in a straight sprint. But the real breakthrough came when Emma discovered Storm's love for jumping. Using fallen logs and hay bales, she built a makeshift course. The first time Storm cleared a 4-foot hurdle, Emma whooped so loudly that Ember galloped over to investigate. The Grand Eastern Derby was the pinnacle of the season, a high-stakes event where Kensington's horses always dominated. Emma scraped together entry fees by selling homemade horse treats and offering riding lessons. The night before the race, she sat in the barn, braiding the Colts' manes by flashlight. "However tomorrow goes," she told them, "you've already won." The Derby was chaos. Spirit dominated the endurance race, his steady pace outlasting younger, flashier horses. Ember, once paralyzed by fear, floated through her dressage routine, her movements earning a standing ovation. But the spotlight was on Storm. In the final sprint, he faced Midnight Rain, Kensington's undefeated stallion. The crowd roared as the two horses thundered down the track, neck and neck. At the wire, Storm lunged forward, winning by a hair's breadth. Emma collapsed to her knees, sobbing as Storm nuzzled her cheek. Reporters swarmed her. "How'd you do it? What's next?" She smiled through tears. This was never about winning. It was about showing them they mattered. Today, Cedar Hollow Farm thrives as a sanctuary for hopeless cases. Spirit, now a therapy horse, teaches disabled children to ride. Ember, still shy, bonds best with trauma survivors, her gentle presence a balm for broken hearts. Storm, retired from racing, spends his days teaching foals to jump, though he still steals Emma's hat when she's not looking. Harlan Kensington sent a letter last year, an apology and a donation check. Emma used the money to build a new barn, and named it Storm's Stable. As for the crumpled letter, she let the creek carry it away, watching as the current dissolved Kensington's words into nothing. The Colts graze in the evening sun, their scars hidden beneath glossy coats. Emma leans on the fence, a rescued terrier at her feet, and smiles. Somewhere, a new Colt stumbles into her trailer, scared, scarred, and utterly perfect. Because greatness isn't about pedigree or power. It's about the courage to begin again. Every champion has a beginning. Sometimes, it just takes someone who sees the strength in the struggle,